Hi everybody, it's Cindy from Ideas Times 2. Welcome back to our channel. Today I have a tutorial for you of a cover, how I make this cover. The idea is not original. I got this idea from Wendy, from Wendy's Journaling Adventures, and I've made a few changes, and so I wanted to share my process for making a fabric spine journal. And this is going to be the first in a series of videos of my process for making a junk journal. So this will be a start to finish. I'm going to start with the cover today, and I have planned anyway a video for a flip, picking up papers, some embellishing, the binding, and we'll see how it goes. But so today is part one of my process of a junk journal start to finish. So as a rule, I do the cover last. And I've discovered for myself, and I discovered this the hard way, of course, that if I do the cover first and then fill it, I usually wind up having too much on the inside and have to edit, take things out. And I can't tell you how many journals I've made where I intended to have 3 signatures, I wound up with 2, and then made a separate one signature journal. I do it all the time. So I've learned that I need to do the cover last. But because this cover, you kind of need to decorate it, embellish it at the right at the beginning. You have to have at least an idea of where you're going with your embellishing, and you know what, how you're going to decorate the front. I like to do this kind of journal, the cover first. So this is going to be just a one signature with a big flip and kind of a standard 9 by 6 inches. So I've already cut all my pieces. I figured you want, there was no reason you need to see me cut my papers. But I'm starting with cereal box, and you know, don't judge me. I like my chocolate and peanut butter cereal. I may be an adult, but I have kind of childish breakfast tastes. So I cut these 9 by 6, and this is going to be the base for my covers. And I'm going to cover the front with a craft cardstock. And so I've cut that as well, and this is also 9 by 6 inches. And so that's the first step. And I'm going to glue the craft paper down. I'm not going to do all the way to the edge because I'm going to sew the edges, and I don't want to, have to wait too long before I can sew them. I'm going. I got all the way to the edge a couple of times, but that's okay. It'll dry pretty quick. I'm using Fabri-Tac as my go-to glue today. It's a brand new bottle, but it's really coming out slow. It's going to be dry on the edges by the time I get the center filled. The nice thing about this journal cover style is that you can make it in any size. I just am going with a 9 by 6 because it's kind of my go-to size, because I hate to trim papers down to fit other sizes. So I kind of stick with the 9 by 6, and because it's just a one signature. The spine will probably be about 1.5 inches, I think. And it doesn't matter if you put the, which, whether you put the outside or the inside cover. I generally, because they're both going to be covered, but it doesn't matter. This is a good way to, reuse those boxes. I use cereal boxes and cracker boxes and all sorts of different sizes for journal covers. So I think I did a pretty good job of measuring. Sometimes I'm off a little bit and you can see, the edges of the box, and that's okay. Just trim it down a little bit. All right. So, my front and my back, and I'm going to go ahead and ink the edges. You don't have to ink them. You can ink them when you're done. Well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and I've already cut my papers for the inside. I'm not going to glue these down yet. I'm going to do that later. But if you want to sew your end papers in, you need to glue it down and do all the sewing at one time. I think I'm going to just glue mine down and not worry about the sewing today. But I am going to ink the edges and try to do this quickly. Although I kind of find watching other people ink their edges very relaxing. Kind of like that ASMR, I don't know if you're familiar with that, where people just video themselves scrunching paper or brushing their hair, and other people watch the videos and are relaxed by it. And I know there are people who have become very wealthy by making these videos for other people to relax. I have a hard time relaxing. I don't think I could watch somebody else brush their hair for 30 minutes. But I do find inking very relaxing. All right. And then on my cover, on the front cover, I'm going to go ahead and glue down a background piece of paper. Just most of it's going to be covered, but I do want to be able to see a little bit of green through my embellishments on the cover. And the reason I'm going to do this now is because when I sew everything down, this will be sewn on also. I'll give this a little swish of ink as well, just enough to cover the white edges, really. Since most of it's going to be covered, I'm not going to worry about aging it or anything. And it's not coffee stained or anything like that. All right, so this is for a spring journal. It's not very spring-like today. It's very chilly and overcast, but all of the daffodils are in bloom and the trees are starting to bud. so it is spring. And so I'm doing kind of spring flowers, some daffodils and some irises and whatnot. So I'm kind of going with a lot of purple and green in this journal. All right. Okay, and I'm going to set these to the side so the glue can dry while we do the spine. Put my end papers over there. And so for the spine, what you're going to need are 2 pieces of fabric. And it doesn't really matter what kind you use. I'm going with a pretty heavy duty canvas, and for both the inside and the outside. So you'll need 2 pieces. The length, or the height of your journal, and then the width of your spine, plus about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch beyond the width of your spine. And so I've cut these to the height of my journal is 9 inches. I cut these about 9.5. I want to leave a fringe on both the top and the bottom. So I cut to 9.5 inches, and it's about 3.5 inches wide. And you're going to need to glue these together. I decided that I'm going to use Heat and Bond. I don't know if you are familiar with Heat and Bond. But basically what it is a glue sheet, and you use your iron to melt the glue onto your fabric. And the reason I'm using this is because with liquid glue, if it gets kind of globby, it can soak through your fabric, and once it does that, it's ruined. There's no way to, I mean, you can maybe embellish it, put something over the top of it, you know, on a spine. You could cover it with you know, buttons or bandages or, you know, something, but it doesn't dry and disappear. It is there. So I'm not using the liquid glue. I decided to go with the Heat and Bond. So I'm going to go ahead and iron, and try to get rid of that little flip on the corner. Just making sure I don't have any wrinkles. And then with the Heat and Bond, you put the glue side down. Otherwise, you're going to wind up having melted glue all over your iron. And iron the paper. And it will melt your glue, and it doesn't take much. And then just let it dry. Well, it'll cool off. As it cools off, it'll dry. And then you can peel the paper, and what you're left with is glue on your fabric. And I don't know, I think you should be able to see it's got some shine to it. That's the glue. I'm going to take my other piece of fabric and make sure they're lined up, and then iron these 2 together. So there's my spine, and I'm going to grab my covers. This is my front and this is my back, and so we are going to then glue the covers to the fabric. And think this is about 2 inches. You know, I use all the pieces from the cereal box. I have all the templates for my my spines on are cut out of cereal boxes. And I always, at this stage, I use this kind of as a template to make sure that everything is even. So what I'm going to do then is put glue on my cover. And this is going to be sewn down, so it doesn't have to be a lot of glue. Try to keep everything fairly even. And then the same thing on the other side. To make sure this has a chance to dry. Something I should have mentioned, this fabric, the canvas I used, one reason I used it is because I wanted to have the fringe up on the top and the bottom. Once you have glued it and glued your 3 pieces together, made that glue sandwich, you won't be able to fringe it anymore, and it shouldn't, there should be no problems with it raveling. However, if you just want to be on the safe side and, you know, give it one more, you know, just one more safety measure to make sure it doesn't unravel more, you could sew across your canvas. It doesn't need it. I've never had one yet where it's raveled past the heat and bond. But, you know, if you want to make sure that, you know, that it doesn't unravel anymore, then, you know, you could easily just, you know, take, you know, 30 seconds to, you know, stitch across both ends. So now that's what it looks like on the inside. When I put the end papers in here. Yeah, that's the front. So when the end pieces are in here, it will cover the fabric. If you don't want to cover that fabric, if you want to have that end, you know, your rough edges of your fabric, you could you know, glue your end papers on first and then glue the fabric down. I am not doing that today. I want to make sure that it's covered. I'm going to be putting an envelope, kind of a big envelope flip on the back, and so that will be covered. That will be covered by the end papers, and so I want the front and the back to be consistent, and so that's why I'm not doing that first. But if you want your the fabric rough edges to show, then glue your end papers on before you glue your spine in. So I'm going to do the next step off camera because I'm going to sew around the edges of the whole thing, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, so I'm back, as you can see, obviously, and I have sewn my cover front and back to the spine, and you can see I just did a standard zigzag stitch all the way around the front, and then again all the way around the back. If you would like to just keep going and zigzag right across the spine, you're welcome to do that. It doesn't hurt anything, and it would maybe give it a little bit more, well, not really stability, but maybe keep your fabric from fraying. Although the glue, I think, will do a perfectly fine job not doing that, or not allowing that. And then from here you can add your end papers, and your end papers should be the same size as your cover. Mine looks a little big. Need to trim that just a scant, not even. Not even a 1/16 of an inch, I don't think, just to make sure. Yeah, there we go. And in the front, at the moment, I think I'm going to just leave it plain. In the back, I'm going to do an envelope flip, and I think I will do that tutorial tomorrow. But we do have enough time. I can show you, or we can together, maybe embellish my cover. And so I have some stuff already sitting out, and I've got some antique lace, some coffee stained cheesecloth, some really gorgeous linen, and I was thinking of maybe taking this image here and using that, and then I might need a book page or two, but that's kind of what I was thinking of using to embellish my cover. And I'm going to start with the linen on the bottom, and I just have torn all the way around, so all of my edges are rough. The lace I might put underneath, just so that it's just the edge is sticking out of the side. And this is super grungy. I did this to make a grungy journal, a grungy paper bag journal, and then didn't use all that I coffee stained. But I like the contrast, so I might use that. So that's the base. Ooh. So there are two irises on here, the purple and the white one. And I definitely want to use the purple. And I'm just roughly tearing these out. If you want to use, botanicals from, like a Tim Holtz botanical, or of course depends on the style of journal you're making, and if you're doing a theme, use whatever you want. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm doing botanical, I'm doing a spring, and mostly spring flowers. I wanted to do all irises. I wanted this to be an iris journal. And I had some gorgeous book pages, and the one I was going to use for my cover, I lost somehow between yesterday and while I was sitting at my desk working, I have no idea where it is. It's just gone. That's what I wanted to use on the cover. It's not on the floor. It's not in the stack of papers. I have no idea what happened to it. Sometimes I think my desk is like the Bermuda Triangle and things just disappear. And some things you can understand, you know, if you lose a brat or something, but an entire book page, I don't know how I did that. So, let's see. I kind of wish I had coffee stained this, but because it's very, very white. All right. One way to fix that, of course, a little bit of ink. Especially around those edges. And I think I'm going to add a little bit all over, kind of age that white. All right. So, let's see, what else do I need? I feel like I need a little bit of purple, something to kind of go there. Book page. I could put green since I already have green on my cover. Let's see what I've got in my paper stash. Some dark green. Music. I'm sure I don't have any purple in here. Purple is not my favorite color, so I don't work with it very often. However, let's see what I can do with this. I definitely need a little bit of purple. Okay. I was dyeing some sari silk the other day, and I had some, just a little bit of dye left in the cup, and so I did a bunch of index cards and seam binding and all sorts of stuff in fun colors. Okay. Give that a little touch of purple. And let's see. Maybe a little bit of music on this side. I don't know, what do you think? And I think I'll put a book plate down here on the bottom. It's already a lot of layers. I don't know if it needs anything else, but I kind of feel like this journal needs to be maybe a little more over the top. I'm also going to put bandages over it after I bind it, so I don't want it to get too busy either. All right. I think that's a good start. Once I add the book plate, the bandages, I think, and some kind of probably a wrap closure, I think this will be gorgeous when it's done. I also, on this cover, like to do something, a little something on the back, just to give it some interest. And so I might take this image here, and I just like something small on the back. Sorry, I know that's noisy. I don't talk very loud, and my paper is louder than I am, so. I'm trying a new microphone today. I get a lot of complaints about the sound, but this is my third microphone. I use a microphone every time I record, and I don't know why. They just don't seem to do the job, at least not for me, so. And I keep trying. Until I get it right, I'll keep testing different microphones and different setups. So I appreciate those of you who've had patience and just turn up your volume instead of turning me off. And I'm going to use a little bit of book page. Just something small. And of course, a little bit more ink. And I'm just going to glue this down. If you wanted to sew this, at this point you can actually, the cover's not too thick to sew through if you wanted to sew directly on the cover. Or of course you can glue your pages together and sew them and then glue them down, whatever your embellishment is, which is what I'm going to do on the front. Oh, maybe that needs a little purple as well. Before the glue dries. I generally don't like my covers to be too thick or too heavy with embellishments because I think it makes it harder to actually write in your journal. But I like them to be collaged or layered. Oh yeah, that's better. There we go. And we can go ahead and glue this down. Whoops. All right. And I will glue and sew this off camera. And get this cover finished up in a little bit, but that's my basic method. A little different from Wendy's, but not too different. I really like this cover. I like that flexibility of the spine because that way you can fill your journal up and not have to worry about cracking or stressing the spine. So that's my cover. Thank you for joining me today so I could show you the process of making my cover. I'll be back soon, very soon, to do part 2 of the series, and I think I'll be doing the envelope flip and envelope flip next, so that should be fun. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. We just love our subscribers. And you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and our Etsy shop, of course, and that's ideastimestwo. And have a fantastic afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye-bye.